It was one of those perfect spring evenings in Savannah, Georgia, the kind that belongs in vintage photographs. Ancient oak trees draped with Spanish moss lined the streets, golden light slanted across historic buildings, and the scent of jasmine hung thick in the air. Assistant District Attorney Naomi Carter drove her Lexus ES through the quiet streets of Chatham Crescent, turning off Whitaker Street toward home. Still dressed in her work blazer, she'd only swapped her heels for comfortable flats. A pile of case files occupied the passenger seat beside her. Mental replays of that day's tense bail hearing filled her thoughts, when suddenly blue lights flashed in her rearview mirror. An immediate tension gripped her shoulders. She hadn't been speeding. She hadn't missed any stop signs. Yet here she was, pulling over, activating her hazards, and taking a deep, steadying breath. She'd been here before. Too many times. She lowered, her window halfway as the side mirror captured a white male officer exiting his patrol car. His name badge identified him as Doy G., mid-30s, clean cut. His movements suggested someone who'd already made up his mind before stepping from his vehicle. "License and registration," he demanded sharply. "Good evening, officer. I'm Assistant District Attorney Naomi Carter, heading home from court. Here are my ID and registration," she replied calmly, documents already prepared. Officer Garrett Doyle barely glanced at the paperwork, his gaze fixed firmly on her face instead. "This your vehicle?" "Yes, it is," she answered, evenly. "It's registered under my name, as you'll see there." He took a half step back. "This car matches the description of a stolen vehicle. I need to verify that." She nodded. "Please do. My name should match the registration. The VIN is clearly visible." After another moment of staring, he returned to his cruiser. Naomi remained motionless, both hands visible on the steering wheel. Having prosecuted numerous assault cases and reviewed countless body cam videos, she understood how quickly situations could deteriorate. From his car, Garrett radioed in the VIN and plate number. Dispatch responded promptly. No alerts, no reports. Vehicle registered to Naomi Carter. Everything checked out, yet instead of returning her documents, he emerged from his vehicle with an even more rigid posture. "Step out of the car, ma'am." Naomi frowned slightly. "May I ask why?" "I'm ordering you to step out. Don't make this difficult." "I'm complying, officer. I've done nothing wrong. You've confirmed the car is registered to me." He didn't wait. "Step out now." Slowly, Naomi unbuckled her seatbelt and opened her door, palms clearly visible. "Stand steady. I'm stepping out as instructed, but respectfully, am I being detained?" "You're interfering with an investigation," he snapped. "You're showing resistance." "I've complied fully," she replied evenly. "You're escalating a situation without basis." That's when he moved. Grabbing her wrist, he twisted her arm behind her back with excessive force. Naomi gasped as pain shot through her shoulder. "Officer, put your hands behind your back," he commanded. I'm not resisting," she stated loudly, projecting her voice toward a couple walking their dog on the sidewalk. "I am Ada Naomi Carter, and I am not resisting arrest." Garrett secured the handcuffs, metal edges biting into her skin. Her case files spilled from the open car door onto the pavement as he pushed her against the hood, one hand pressing firmly between her shoulder blades. Her forehead touched the warm metal surface, and she closed her eyes, forcing herself to breathe steadily. "You are under arrest for obstructing a police investigation and resisting instructions," he announced. "That's false," she said through clenched teeth. "You confirmed my ID and my vehicle. You have no probable cause." He remained silent, jaw tense and movements abrupt. Across the street, witnesses had begun gathering. A teenage girl with box braids raised her iPhone, recording everything. "Hey!" the teen shouted. "She told you who she is. You didn't even explain why you pulled her over." Garrett glanced around briefly, noticing the growing crowd. A delivery man had stopped beside his scooter, watching wide-eyed. A woman in nursing scrubs approached, her voice carrying clearly. "She's the ADA." What the hell are you doing?" Ignoring them all, Garrett pulled Naomi upright by her elbow, tearing her blazer slightly in the process. "Turn off the engine," he instructed, as if she could comply with her hands cuffed behind her back. "I complied," Naomi repeated, fury now evident beneath her controlled tone. "This is a violation of my rights. You've gone too far." "Keep talking," he replied coolly. Just then, a second patrol unit arrived. Officer Lisa Ortega stepped out, visibly concerned as she surveyed the scene. Naomi in handcuffs, documents scattered across the ground, bystanders shouting in protest. "Garrett!" she called sharply, pulling him aside. "What the hell is going on?" Stolen vehicle suspicion. She was being combative. "She's the ADA. I recognize her." "Did dispatch confirm the vehicle?" "They said it was clean." Lisa's jaw tightened. "Then why is she in cuffs?" She was argumentative. No, she was terrified, and rightfully so. Lisa moved past him toward Naomi, who stood straight despite the restraints. "Miss Carter," Lisa said in a gentler tone, "I'm going to remove these cuffs. I'm sorry, I'll fix this." Naomi's lips formed a tight line. "You're already too late." Lisa carefully unlocked the handcuffs, minimizing physical contact. Naomi's wrists were marked red, her expression unreadable as she turned to face Garrett. "You will be hearing from me, from my office, from Internal Affairs, and from the Bar Association. You just assaulted a public servant without cause and in front of witnesses." Though she didn't raise her voice, her words carried the weight of something official. Something final. Garrett stared back, not with fear but with dawning realization, like someone who suddenly understood that the rope he'd pulled was actually wrapped around his own feet. Naomi collected her files from the ground, ignoring Lisa's offer to help despite her slightly trembling fingers. She returned to her car and sat motionless for a long moment, staring straight ahead before rolling down her window. "Get your department ready. This isn't over." And it wasn't, not by a long shot. Sleep didn't come for Naomi that night. Hour after hour? She replayed the moment Officer Doyle seized her wrist, forced her against the hood of her own car, and snapped on those handcuffs without warning. She didn't break down, didn't panic. She documented every detail, every word exchanged, every witness she recalled seeing. At 3:47 a.m., she emailed her comprehensive report to Internal Affairs, the Georgia State Bar, and the Chatham County District Attorney's Office with a simple subject line: "Use of force complaint, ADA Naomi Carter." By 7:15 a.m., her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Reporters, civil rights attorneys, local activists. Her inbox flooded with clips and screenshots. Video of the incident had already surpassed 600,000 views across social media platforms. One particularly devastating 12-second clip captured her steady voice saying, "I am not resisting," followed by the unmistakable image of a white officer forcing a black woman's wrist into metal restraints. At precisely 9:00 a.m., she entered the DA's office. No morning pleasantries, no smiles. People averted their gaze as she passed. Raymond Daniels, the district attorney, intercepted her at the elevator. "My office now." The conference room resembled a war room. 4 senior staffers, 2 city attorneys, and the head of the police department's legal liaison division waited inside. Daniels went straight to the point. "What do you want to do?" "I've already filed a complaint," Naomi stated, dropping a printed copy of her report on the table. "I want full disciplinary action, a public apology, and a complete review of Officer Garrett Doyle's prior stops involving women of color." One city attorney raised an eyebrow. "You're calling for an investigation into the officer's history?" "I'm not calling," she corrected. "I'm demanding." He physically restrained a sitting prosecutor without cause after verifying both my identity and vehicle ownership. If I'd been a public defender or, God forbid, unemployed, I'd likely still be in jail. "We're receiving pressure from the mayor's office," another added. "They're worried this situation will explode." "It already has," Naomi replied. "Containment isn't the goal. Accountability is. Daniels leaned back in his chair. You'll have our support, but be prepared. The union's going to circle the wagons. They're claiming the officer feared for his safety. Then he shouldn't be wearing a badge, Naomi snapped. Later that afternoon, the Savannah Police Department issued a vague statement. We are aware of the incident involving ADA Naomi Carter. We are reviewing the facts and taking the matter seriously. It said nothing of substance, just damage control, no admission, no apology. At 4:04 p.m., Internal Affairs contacted her. Miss Carter, we've begun a preliminary investigation. We'd like you to appear for a formal interview within 48 hours. I'll be there tomorrow at 10 Srewias, she replied. Are you willing to testify publicly if the case proceeds to a disciplinary hearing? Yes, and if it doesn't, I'll take it to federal court. That night, protesters gathered outside City Hall downtown. Not an enormous crowd, perhaps 150 people, but growing steadily. Chants echoed through the brick archways. Hands off our voices, and Justice wears heels and drives Lexus. Naomi watched the live stream while preparing cases for the following day. She couldn't skip court, not when the system might use her absence to question her professionalism. At 6:42 p.m., Officer Doyle's precinct supervisor called. We'd like to arrange a meeting. For what purpose? She asked. To discuss what resolution looks like for you. Off the record? No, she stated firmly. There is no off the record when you put me in cuffs for driving my own damn car. The next morning, Naomi entered the municipal building with her documents in hand. Internal Affairs occupied the second floor, a converted post office space that still carried the lingering scent of dust and bureaucracy. She was escorted to a small room equipped with cameras in each corner and a digital recorder blinking red. The lead investigator, a black woman in her 50s named Janice Powell, greeted her formally. Miss Carter, this interview will be recorded. Are you here voluntarily? Yes. Can you confirm that you were stopped on March 18th by Officer Garrett? Doyle of Savannah PD? Yes. Can you describe the incident? Naomi recounted everything with courtroom precision. Where he pulled her over, his tone, his questions, how he disregarded dispatch's confirmation that the vehicle was registered to her, how he ordered her out, how she complied, how he grabbed her, twisted her arm, forced her against the hood, handcuffed her, and accused her of resisting arrest when she had neither raised her voice nor moved without permission. Did he read you your rights? No. Did he inform you of any specific charge? He said I was obstructing. I was not. Did he cite any code violation for the initial stop? No. Janice nodded and leaned back. Have you retained legal counsel? Not yet. I'm hoping the department does what's right before it comes to that. At the interview's conclusion, Janice switched off the recorder. Off the record, Miss Carter. I've been doing this job a long time. That footage is damning. We're going to recommend suspension at minimum. Naomi nodded. And what happens if they bury it? Then you go louder. That evening, the police union released a statement defending Officer Doyle's actions under pressure and citing procedural safety concerns due to unverified information at the time of the stop. Naomi responded by going straight to WJCL-TV, the local news affiliate, giving a brief interview on the courthouse steps. This wasn't a misunderstanding, she stated clearly. This was profiling. This was power without accountability. And I won't let it pass. Quietly. The segment aired that night. Soon after, the mayor issued a follow-up statement acknowledging the incident's seriousness. Other politicians joined in, some cautiously supportive, others evasive, but the tide was turning. The final pivotal moment came 2 days later when a retired Savannah police officer anonymously contacted Naomi. The former officer shared documents revealing that Officer Doyle had 6 prior complaints involving traffic stops with black women. None had resulted in disciplinary action. Naomi immediately forwarded the file to Internal Affairs. 10 minutes later, her phone rang. Janice again. You've just changed everything, she said. We're fast-tracking the hearing. Get ready. Naomi checked her calendar, closed her eyes, and exhaled. For the first time since the incident, Her hands remained steady. The hearing was scheduled for the following Thursday at the Savannah Municipal Review Board, held in a long, dimly lit meeting hall inside city offices near River Street. Naomi arrived precisely at 9 a.m., dressed in a dark gray suit with her hair pulled back in a simple bun. She brought no entourage, no press, no legal team. Just a folder containing her original report, the union's public defense, and the internal documents confirming Officer Doyle's previous complaints. Inside, conversation already buzzed throughout, sick the room. The review board, consisting of 5 members, 3 civilians, 1 retired judge, and 1 former police captain, sat behind a long table at the front. Garrett Doyle occupied the opposite end, flanked by 2 police union lawyers. He didn't appear angry, just cornered. Naomi took her seat, nodding politely to the board members. No applause greeted her. No cameras were permitted inside, though the hallway beyond teemed with reporters and community members seeking answers. The board chair, Lorraine Metz, a woman with 30 years in public service, opened the proceedings with measured authority. This review concerns a stop conducted by Officer Garrett Doyle involving Assistant District Attorney Naomi Carter. The board will examine conduct, justification, use of force, and adherence to department policy. The reminder was unnecessary. The incident had already grown beyond the confines of this room. Naomi spoke first. Standing to address the board with quiet determination, she began. On the evening in question, I was driving home from work alone in a vehicle registered in my name. I was stopped without cause. My identification and vehicle information were verified by dispatch. Despite this, I was ordered out of my car, restrained, handcuffed, and accused of obstructing a process that had already concluded. I never raised my voice. I never resisted. What happened wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. She distributed copies of her report to the board and resumed her seat. Then the footage played. 4 different angles: dash cam, Doyle's body cam, and bystander footage from across the street. Silence fell as Doyle's voice ordered Naomi from the car. Her calm response followed. His hand moved toward her wrist. She repeated that she wasn't. Resisting, handcuffs clicked audibly, onlookers called out in protest. When the video ended, seconds passed without a word. Then Doyle's attorney stood. Officer Doyle was responding to a possible match on a stolen vehicle. His concern was public. Safety. Given the tense climate surrounding law enforcement, he exercised caution. One board member, retired Judge Alan Wexler, interrupted. Caution doesn't include force against someone whose credentials and identity were confirmed. Doyle's attorney shifted uncomfortably. There was confusion, a procedural miscommunication. Then, why did the officer fail to mention the dispatch clearance in his initial report? Wexler pressed. Why did he label the interaction as non-compliant when the footage shows nothing of the sort? The lawyer offered no response. Naomi remained still, her expression unreadable. Then, in a quiet but significant moment of reckoning, Officer Doyle was called to speak. He stood, adjusted his tie, and surveyed the boardroom. His voice lacked the edge it had carried during the traffic stop. I believed I was following protocol. I believed I was being cautious. He paused. But I watched the video. I read her statement. I heard the public. I see now I went too far. I didn't listen when I should have. And I didn't see her. Not as an ADA, not as a citizen, not even as a human being with a name. For that, I was wrong. A few heads lifted slightly at his admission, but Naomi didn't react. She had heard too many courtroom apologies to be moved by late contrition. Metz, the board chair, nodded once and called for a recess. When they returned 30 minutes later, the verdict came swiftly. Officer Doyle acted outside departmental guidelines. His actions constituted excessive force, failure to de-escalate, and improper documentation. The board recommends immediate suspension without pay for 90 days, mandatory retraining in bias and de-escalation, and a final warning. Any further violation results in termination. The ruling satisfied neither extreme. Some in the hallway demanded termination, others considered it too harsh. Naomi showed no reaction. She stood, thanked the board, and exited through a back door to avoid the cameras. She didn't address the press, not yet. The following week, an unmarked letter arrived at her office. Inside was a single sentence written on lined paper. "Because of you, my daughter wants to be a prosecutor." Naomi folded the note and placed it in her desk drawer. Later that day, she addressed colleagues during a mandatory departmental meeting. Standing at the front of the room, she allowed silence to settle before speaking. "I wasn't just stopped that night. I was judged by appearance, by assumption, and by the comfort of someone else's power. That kind of judgment happens to people every day, in ways we don't always see. What we do in here must be better than what happened out there." Quiet applause followed, not thunderous, but sustained. Several days later, Doyle began his retraining. Naomi didn't monitor the program, but she received a message from another officer in the same training class. "We're being shown your footage," it read. "They're calling it a case study in accountability. You didn't break. Thank you." Yet Naomi knew this wasn't the conclusion. The video had ignited discussions in town halls, college classrooms, and around dinner tables. Conversations about race, power, policing, and perception grew louder than before. But she hadn't sought fame or viral attention. All she wanted, still wants, was for the badge and the law to mean the same thing, regardless of who sits behind the wheel. On a rainy morning 2 weeks later, Naomi visited a high school where she'd been invited to speak during Career Day. During the Q&A session, a black student raised his hand and asked, "Do you think things will ever really change?" Naomi paused, then smiled. "I think change starts when we stop asking permission to be treated fairly." That afternoon she returned to court. Same courtroom, same bench. But nothing was exactly the same anymore. Because now, every time she looked into the eyes of someone wrongfully accused or noticed hesitation in someone afraid to speak up, she remembered how it felt to stand silent with her hands behind her back. And she promised herself she'd never be silent again.